Today on the show, we tell terrible jokes, sniff out ambushes, and embark on a road trip from hell. Welcome to Lore Party, the podcast that explores the stories, characters, and universes of our favorite video games. I am Lawrence.
And I am Connor.
And we have quite the episode for you today.
Oh, yeah. Things are heating up. Episode 4.
And we're not just talking about the coffee.
Yeah, things are heating up, and it's not the 20-year-old ravioli. It's things are getting serious here.
Oh my God! At least we know now that Chef Boyardee is the food of the apocalypse.
As if there was any doubt before. I think we all knew deep down that when shit gets bad and you have to live on the road and infrastructure breaks down, society collapses, you can still count on your old pal Chef Boyardee to feed you, fill your belly.
Chef. Yeah. I feel like Chef Boyardee is the food of the apocalypse now.
That and Twinkies. You can always count on Twinkies. So. Yeah, for my bug out bag, for my emergency rucksack, I'm filling it up with cans of ravioli and Twinkies. That's all I've got.
My Desert Eagle and the Chef.
Yeah, hunting knife, lots of bullets, lots of Boyardee and Twinkies. Fun fact, Chef Boyardee, the real guy who inspired the brand Chef Boyardee, was from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here. We out there. But no, we're here to talk about episode 4 of The Last of Us on HBO, the adaptation, the TV show that continues to please, continues to just put out the hits. I think the viewership has gone up like by big numbers each week or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's been
I think it was 36% this week. So just like that 20-year-old can of Chef Boyardee, it gets better with age.
It's like a fine wine, just appreciating
a
the
sauce
value.
can.
An aluminum can.
Oh God.
Oh man. But yeah, the usual drill for you on this episode will be just breaking down the events of episode 4, which is titled "Please Hold to My Hand." We'll go over what happened, break down the story beats, and then go into our thoughts on it. Just how we feel about it, react to it. The drill at this point. But first, we just want to remind everyone we'd love to hear from our listeners. Anyone who wants to reach out to us can do so at podcast@loreparty.com. Don't be shy with your thoughts, questions, concerns, comments, criticisms. We'd love to hear from you either way. Who knows? We might read your correspondence in a future episode.
You can even tell us what you would keep in your, what's your go-to apocalypse food? Is it Chef Boyardee? Is it SpaghettiOs? Is it something else?
Chef Boyardee has many varieties. It's not just ravioli. You could go with beefaroni or tortellini or shells and meatballs. I know way too much about Chef Boyardee. I may or may not have survived on it in college. So
the chef is strong with you.
Yes, the chef lives in my heart and my arteries. And if you want to get in touch with us directly, you can reach out to Lawrence on Twitter and Twitch at @producedby_LK. That is at @producedby_LK.
And you can find Connor at Connor Howard VO on Twitter, and that's Connor with an ER. And you can check out his website at ConnorHowardVO, again with an ER.com. Again, that's ConnorHowardVO.com. Just remember the ER. Don't do the first thing I said because I don't know what website you'll get. Probably a blank domain.
.net is bad news. Don't go there. .org. It's the Wild
West.
Prefer
.io myself, but hey.
IO. That's the wave of the future, isn't it? Everyone's doing IO.
Oh yeah, I'm a secret crypto bro.
We're decentralized here. And of course, you can actually get in touch with the entire Lore Party media team at Instagram, on Twitter, and on Twitch at lore_party. Don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you.
But before we kick this road trip off, I've got to finish this can of beefaroni. Can't let it go to waste. So we'll be right back.
Okay, and we're back. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. We're going to break down the events of the most recent Last of Us episode. Please hold to my hand. And if you haven't watched it yet, now's the time to pause, go back and watch it. So, this is your spoiler warning. You've been warned. All right. We tried to warn you.
Here we go.
Let's get into it.
All right. So we start in a bathroom on a roadside gas station of all places. Ellie is practicing loading and unloading the gun that she stole from Bill's house. And she's aiming it at the mirror and getting a lot of, scene made me a little nervous. I was just like, ever since like the Rust thing, I'm just like, please, I just keep the gun away. Keep the prop gun away from me. Like, it just freaks me the hell out. Yeah. But she is just kind of playing with this gun that she stole from Bill's house. She keeps the gun like hidden away from Joel's attention, and she rejoins him, and he attempts to explain how a siphon works because he's just siphoning gas out of some old broken down car. It was a nice scene because like he was trying to be convincing, but yeah, he didn't know what the hell it did.
Oh, it's like a liquid moving against gravity because of like pressure. Yeah. She's like, you don't know how it works, do you? I do. I just know it works.
And
that's
that
all.
Would have been the good enough answer from the very beginning. I'd be like, we do not need to know how this works.
I mean, really, all you had to say was like, you're just creating a vacuum. That's what Bill Nye would tell us if he were around in this post-apocalypse.
I feel like Bill Nye would survive pretty long in the post-apocalyptic world.
I think he would do pretty well.
He'd be out there with the science facts and shit. I feel like he'd also probably have murdered a couple. I feel like he'd have a couple bodies.
I have no problem believing that Bill Nye could throw some hands and take some lives if he really had to.
Science rules. And so, speaking of terrible jokes, bored Ellie pulls a joke book from her backpack, and then she begins tormenting Joel with terrible, terrible puns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's enjoying trying to make him laugh a little too much. Like she's just really reveling in his groans, and she's like, haha, you're stuck with me. She's just kind of like milking it.
Just harassing this poor old man.
So after they siphon some gas and get back on the road, they're in the truck they got from Bill, and they're just kind of making good time, hauling ass across country, covering the miles, and in a truck, just the two of them alone, kind of like lots of time to kill. They get to talking. They start making small talk about Ellie sees tanks and stuff broken down on the side of the road, and she's like, whoa, I've never seen a tank before. And Joel's like, oh yeah, you'll see plenty of those choppers, other military vehicles that are basically extinct now. Like they were he kind of like alludes to how they were used early on in the outbreak but weren't effective enough, and then they started being used to fight fireflies and other people. He kind of refers to they're pointed at the wrong enemy, basically. So it's just making small talk, more of that dynamic we've seen before of Joel kind of sharing his perspective as someone who knew the world before, and Ellie who obviously didn't know the world before. And they just kind of pass more time. Ellie finds a cassette tape. Remember those good old cassette tapes? Yeah. Before MP3s, even before CDs, we had cassette tapes.
And this was not a cassette tape that was like reclaimed by some hipster. This was an actual factual old cassette tape.
Yeah, the genuine article, and it's also a tape of Hank Williams. It's a Hank Williams tape, classic. Can't go wrong with that. And it's funny. It's the same joke from the game. Like it's like a lot of the dialogue 1-to-1 is translated from the game here in this scene where Ellie's like, "Oh hey, is this this is some of your stuff, or like this make you nostalgic?" And Joel says, "Actually, that's before my time, but that's a winner though." I like how he's like, yeah, "That's cool. Let's play it." And classic banger, I would say so myself. The song "Alone and Forsaken" by Hank Williams plays over the radio, and And there's this really cool montage of just they're just passing through all this like crumbling infrastructure, wrecked vehicles and just refuse covering the road, and Ellie's just staring out at all of it while the song plays. And then later she opens up an adult magazine, just like in the game. She's like, "Whoa, look at all these interesting pictures," just kind of like, again, like reveling in making Joel uncomfortable. He's obviously like, "You shouldn't be looking at that. Put that away." And she just kind of fucking with him and throws it out the window, and they just kind of continue passing this time. It's a really cool little montage. It's like part montage, part comedic, back and forth between them, and it's just we're getting the impression that they're covering a lot of ground here, and just trying to fill the time by amusing themselves however they can.
Oh yeah, and they passed. The weird thing is they passed that like herd of cattle. I would have.
Oh yeah, it was like bison or something.
Yeah,
I think
I would have had to get me one of those.
It's a little surprising. Yeah, Joel didn't like pull over, get his rifle out, and set themselves up with some steaks, like a week's worth of steak.
Yeah,
basically.
I would have had to like Oregon Trail me something. It's like I got a truck, so I could keep it in the back. Good, but
exactly.
hey, we got some Chef Boyardee.
Yeah, plenty of that. Who needs fresh beef when you've got decades old canned
It'll never
goods.
go bad. And so as darkness starts to set in, Joel pulls the truck off the road into a nearby forest, which is actually kind of that S10, man. That S10 just keeps on.
It handled the field just fine. Went right into those trees and kept on
That's
ticking.
the perfect truck for the apocalypse. My God. And so they sit down for a delicious dinner of 20-year-old Chef Boyardee ravioli. It's fucking gross. This is where all this chef talk has been coming. It's been leading up to this. This is the entire episode right here.
This was our main takeaway: is that Chef Boyardee is the food of the apocalypse. Well, hey, at least they heated it up. They weren't like eating it cold out of the can. We have to give them that,
they did. Joe had a nifty gas stove, and they cooked it on there. And so we get some nice dialogue because like Ellie, of course, asked Joel if they could start a fire because she's freezing her ass off. And Joel refuses, and she was like, "You know what? You're afraid the infected are going to see the smoke?" And he's like, "No, fungus isn't that smart." And so like she's just like, "Oh, people, what are they gonna rob us?" And Joel was like, basically he implies that getting robbed would probably be the least of their worries.
Yeah it could get a lot worse than that. We can get the impression that he's implying something from experience here, like you don't even want to know what people out here might do to you.
So it's like there's a lot of dark possibilities because we are in a lawless land now.
Yeah.
And so, they kind of settle into their sleeping bags, and Joel keeps this like loaded bolt action rifle just like by his side. He's getting ready to like Dick Cheney someone if if anything moves. And so it's like like they go get some rest. Their plan is to just like drive through the rest of the day. And so like Ellie lays down in her sleeping bag, takes out her flashlight, starts reading that book, and then she tries to get Joel's attention. And then she's like, "Hey, I got a serious question."
Serious question for you.
And then it turns out to be, why did a scarecrow get an award? And Joel actually answers this one. And he's like, because he was outstanding in his field, which is like a rare break from this man's cold, callous, like, don't talk to me ass attitude that he has.
Right. He actually plays along for a second, and I think Ellie shows her appreciation by just kind of yelling, "Oh, you motherfucker, you knew that one." It's just
and like he turns, and he's like not facing her, but he's got this like kind of shitty grin on his face, like, "Yeah, I know this one." Ha.
Sly little smirk, yeah.
And so like now he tells her to go to sleep, but then Ellie asks for reassurance that no one will find him. To which Joel, reaffirms like, "Yeah, no one will find us." And despite his answer to Ellie, that their campsite is safe, he does get up and he stands guard, and like it's like kind of feels like partially like maybe he wants to protect this kid, or just maybe he's that paranoid, like, being out here in the open.
Yeah.
It could be either, it feels like.
That's a good point. It's layered, I think. It's like he has these instincts that he can't turn off. Like he never feels safe. That's a trauma response. But I think on some level you could argue that no, some of his protective instincts are kicking in as well. Like this kid basically, young adult barely, is my responsibility. And it's I think like maybe by telling her, yeah, no one's gonna find us here. He knows he's maybe lying, or maybe he's like just kind of telling her what she needs to hear a little bit, but he doesn't buy his own answer. So he's like, I'm not going to take chances. I'm going to stand watch, like, and barely sleep at all.
Man is just, didn't need any sleep, just survived on whatever. I don't know.
On ravioli and coffee.
Yeah, that ravioli gave him a boost.
That's right. And speaking of coffee, I guess that's how he gets through the next day, because in the morning, Ellie wakes up and, she sees that there's a little fire going. I guess it's safe during the daytime to make a fire, and Joel is brewing some coffee over the fire, and it's actually a really cool little camping equipment thing. You can see it's actually like a wood burning percolator, basically, is what he's using to make the coffee. It's this really cool little pot. I don't know. I find that fascinating.
No, I thought that was cool too.
Yeah. So like she wakes up to the smell of coffee, which she is disgusted by. She's like, "What the hell is this shit?"
That hurt my soul.
But they get back in the truck and continue their drive, and they talk about coffee. She's like, "How do you drink that?" or something. She says, "I think he's like, Joel is drinking this coffee that he brewed over the fire out of like this thermos, basically," and Ellie's like, "That smells like burnt shit." Yeah. And I love this because his only reply, the way he answers that, is he just slurps it even louder out of his thermos.
And like, what I love about that is, and she was like, "Is this what those like Starbucks and the QZ used to sell?" And I was like, "Yeah, Starbucks coffee is burnt shit anyways. It's
very true.
It's like really acidic and gross." And I was like, "Oh, he must have gotten a fresh bag of Starbucks coffee." He must have had, that was not 20 years old. That was brand new.
He got it straight from the Starbucks in Boston. They love their Starbucks.
Keep
over
it
there.
Stocked.
Stacked. But yeah, so they're again passing more time on the road, just driving, just covering the miles, and they start looking over the map. Ellie has basically like the road atlas on her lap of the United States, and just they're looking at their route from where they are to Wyoming, which is where they're headed. And they talk about the plan to just look for Tommy. And Ellie starts prodding Joel for just more information about his brother. Like, he hasn't really talked about Tommy that much up until now. And so Ellie wants to know, like, what's his name? How is he, older or younger? And yada, yada. And Joel starts to, not like open, but, he's sharing some information. He says, like, Tommy's what we used to call a joiner. He says, joiner is the term he uses, where, his little brother always dreamed of being a hero, basically. He explains how Tommy joined the army right out of high school because he wanted to be a hero, but that didn't really satisfy him. So then the outbreak happened, and Tommy fell in with a group of survivors who were heading to Boston, and Joel describes how he basically tagged along just to look after Tommy and keep him safe. And that's how they met Tess and ended up in Boston together. But then, and the tone changes a little bit here when Joel brings up Marlene. He like kind of drops his tone a little bit, like, and then Tommy met Marlene, who talked him into joining the Fireflies. Again, that like chasing that dream of being a hero, kind of like how, what led him into the army way back in the day. And so, Tommy joined the Fireflies, but then later dropped out of that group too. So it's like you get the impression that Tommy was a joiner, really idealistic, but didn't stick with his cause for very long. In any case,
he was a rare joiner quitter.
He was the follower whose motivations only lasted so long, and he's just I'm bored.
Fuck this, I'm gone.
And so Joel like kind of boils it all down to a dismissal. Basically, kind of like dismisses both the Firefly cause and Tommy's kind of lifelong obsession with being a hero. Is he kind of dismisses all of it as a pipe dream, basically. He as far as Joel considers it, it's all delusional.
Yeah.
And so he kind of writes it all off. And this leads Ellie to ask him a very thematically important question. Like with this, a lot of this story comes back to this question of, if you don't think there's hope for the world, why do you keep going? Is what Ellie wants to know from Joel. And he kind of shrugs a little bit, but he does give an answer. He says, you keep going for family. Like, you keep going for those few people who are very important to you, including Tommy. That's why he's doing all this. Like, I'm going to look out for my little brother. And Ellie asks, well, am I family? And we saw this in the trailer, really, really important kind of tone setting conversation here. He says, no, you're not family, you're cargo. And Tess was like family. So I'm doing this for her. You're just kind of coincidental to what I'm doing for my family, basically. So it's, there's a bit more of Joel and Ellie kind of figuring each other out here, but also setting boundaries between each other a little bit. Like, Joel is still keeping that wall up. Like, he's opened up to her a tiny bit along the way so far, but he still has that big wall up. Like, you're not family to me, you're cargo, is how he still sees
But
her.
you're important at the same time because of Tess.
Right.
And so, like, that's why I liked him standing up there, like, the night before. And, like, I was like, I feel like this has a little bit to do with Ellie, a little bit to do with Tess, and a little bit to do with his own general paranoia about this, like, really fucked up world.
Right.
So it's like, man is firing on all cylinders here, and just in a tornado of different things happening to him.
Yeah.
And so they keep driving. Ellie falls asleep after, saying she's going to stay up. Should have had some of that burnt shit coffee.
I guess so.
When she wakes up, Joel has basically like driven them all the way to Kansas City, Missouri, aka Pittsburgh. No,
Pittsburgh too. It's the second Pittsburgh.
And so they find the highway ahead, just like blocked by like wrecked cars, and then a big ass semi truck turns sideways, and so Joel's spider senses start tingling, and he's like sensing a trap here.
Yeah, this is sus. Yeah.
He's like, he gets out, he gets out with his gun, and then gets back in the car, and is like, he looks at the map, and then was like, fuck it, and decides to try this like detour around the blockade. And so he's like trying to go, basically cut into the streets, find a right turn, and just kind of fly back onto the highway and get back out of there. He's cutting down the city streets, and he drives by the entrance of what appears to be an abandoned quarantine zone. And like, so Ellie sees it and asks, where is Fedra? And then a seemingly wounded man appears in the street ahead, and anyone who's played the video game knew exactly what the fuck this was.
We know where this is going.
Yeah. And so he's calling for help, and he's like, looks like he's wounded. He's like, oh, help me. And all Joel does is say, put on your seatbelt to Ellie. And he revs that engine and just flies at the guy.
Yep.
So they speed down the street. They're like getting shot at, and someone's throwing like cinder blocks and at the truck window. Joel, they run over like a spike strip, and they crash into an old laundromat. And you notice that the damn airbags on the S10 apparently aren't there or don't work.
Thanks, warranty. Way to go.
Right.
I guess Bill didn't keep those keep those maintained.
Yeah, Bill like passing off this like fucking defective ass truck.
I think Bill just didn't believe in airbags. Maybe he's like, no, I don't need that pansy shit. I die in the crash like a man.
Government conspiracy.
I did love how this was like a classic scene from the game, the ambush scene. In the game, it's Pittsburgh, like we mentioned earlier, but here it's Kansas City. Same basic concept though. A guy pretending to be hurt, and Joel just like running him over basically. But like as the truck just flies toward the guy who's being the decoy, he drops the act immediately, goes, oh fuck, and like starts shooting at the truck. And that was like the case in the game, and they kind of did that again here in the show. I just loved seeing that play out.
And
it was fun.
They had the song that they played earlier.
Yes.
Played during like all the way through that scene. So it's good that they started the show off with that. We're getting all the game elements here.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice callbacks already, and there's more coming too, which is cool. So yeah, so they've wrecked their truck. They can't drive away. There's no escape, or at least not easily yet. So their first priority is Joel and Ellie. They just have to get out of the truck and get to cover because the attackers are closing in on them. throwing bullets their way, pinging off the truck. They're under fire. It's getting sketch. And Joel grabs his rifle and he tells Ellie to squeeze into a hole in a nearby wall. Like he sees a gap in the drywall, basically. Tells her, like, get in there and hide. And so she crawls to safety while he covers her. He stands up and starts returning fire on the ambushers while she's crawling to the wall. And he actually manages to tag one. He takes one out with his rifle, and the first guy goes down. And it was awesome because you hear the second guy go, "Oh, fuck, you killed him. Like, you're going to pay for that." Like, just the dialogue straight out of the game. It's like the same vibe. It's like they're, the bad guys, talking shit at you as they try to kill you. It's crazy.
And we see that Joel is tactical as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was all planned out.
Yeah, he had a good position. He just kind of like stayed in cover. He lined up on the guy. He was just throwing rounds down range. He was working that bolt like a pro. He knew what he was doing. And also great tactical acuity here. When he takes out the first guy, he repositions. He like moves further into the laundromat, knowing that the second guy's going to come and try and flank him and find him. Knows where he is now. But he repositions, and when the second guy comes into the laundromat, Joel has a clear shot at him, takes him out too, just eliminates the second guy. So it seems like the coast is clear now. Like they're not getting shot at anymore. But then suddenly a third man busts through the back door and gets the drop on Joel. It just gets him on the floor, pins him down, and starts strangling him with a shotgun. And Joel is, trying to fight back, but he's losing the struggle here. Ellie knows that Joel's in trouble, so she leaves her hiding place. And she has the pistol drawn, the one that she stole from Bill and Frank. She kind of sneaks up behind the guy and shoots him in the back. It kind of seems like she hit him in the spine.
Yeah.
Because he says he can't. In a minute here, he says that he can't use his legs. So like she got him dead center, like right in the spine. That's fucking crazy. Like for her first time shooting someone that we've seen, at least, pretty good shot.
Yeah. Honestly. Yeah, your first time shooting a person, I was like, you didn't hit Joel.
that's the best we could hope for. You didn't accidentally, blow Joel's head off. And so, yeah, like she saves Joel's life basically by shooting this guy in the back. And the bandit immediately, like, he starts begging for his life. Like, no, please don't kill me. We're not, like, no, the fight's over. And he starts crying that, yeah, he can't move his legs. He's like just helpless on the ground. And, he's immediately in conversation mode when seconds before he was in, "You're going to fucking die, I'm going to kill you" mode.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like,
he turned that shit all the way off. I was like, oh God, get your name and everything.
Yeah. Went from 11 to 0 real quick on the aggression meter there. And he's like, "Oh, no, my name's Brian. We're cool. We can trade." Like, my mom lives down the block. You can take me to her. It's all this like it's getting really pathetic and really sad really quick. And it's getting like, man, this is not a fight anymore. This is like cold. It got cold blooded really quick because he, surrenders his knife. He's like, "Here, you can have my knife." And like, he's just like, wanting to be spared so bad. And Joel stands up. He's back on his feet now. And he's just kind of like looking like stone cold resolute. Like there's only one way this plays out. And he tells Ellie, "Get back behind the wall." And she hesitates for a minute, but she turns and, hurries back behind the wall. And as soon as she moves to leave, you can tell Brian knows he's screwed now. Like, no, this is it. And he's just wailing in terror and screaming for mercy. And we just hear kind of like a wet thunking noise as we assume Joel takes the knife and finishes the job. So pretty hardcore, pretty cold-blooded stuff. It's crazy, but that's the world we're in right now. So
yes, I will say one thing I liked about that scene was when Brian busts in the back door. He tried to shoot Joel, and Joel like knocked the shotgun up with his gun, and I was like, good God, man. 56-year-old like badass.
Yeah, he's spry for his age. Absolutely.
Yeah, all that paranoia, man. All that paranoia. It's like this was just, I don't know. Everything about the scene was just like absolutely like just fucking wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that finisher, I was like, oh God, this is real. Like this is grim.
Yeah,
and
man.
so So they, now that Brian is dead, the two kind of grab whatever supplies they need, and they kind of just make a hasty escape. They're trying to, like hoping to get to higher ground to find a way out of the city. So like they get to the street, and then they see like several vehicles carrying more hostile human survivors. They're like ducking behind cars and just trying to keep a low profile. And like you even hear someone like, "Oh no, body, Brian's dead."
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, there's a lot more people, and there's going to be more people coming.
Brian had friends, lots of them.
Yeah. And so like we cut to a former federal holding cell, and a woman named Kathleen is interrogating an elderly man named Edelston. And, asking him for the whereabouts of several people, like all of whom he claims to not have seen at all. And then, she keeps grilling him basically. And she basically believes he knows where a man named Henry is. And she's not really not believing anything he's saying. And so Kathleen shares that, like, federal officers beat her brother to death in a cell like this, and basically accuses Edelstein of being a snitch.
Yeah.
It's like, you ratted my brother out, and he, died in a cell just like this due to Fedra. And so we also find out at this point, Edelstein is a doctor who delivered Kathleen. So it's like, in the grand scheme of things, a doctor is probably pretty fucking important.
Yeah, especially one who's known you literally your entire life. So this is neighbors turning on neighbors here. That's really the core of this scene, because Kathleen accuses Edelstein, like, you ratted out your own neighbors to Fedra. So we're looking at insurgents who have won their uprising basically, and they're taking revenge on anyone who helped the oppressors. Basically, that's the dynamic that's playing out here. And a doctor who literally delivered you when you were born is not exempt from this retribution of, like, if you helped the people we just kicked out of power, then you're fucked. Like, it's going to come back on you, the fact that you helped them. This was an incredibly deep scene that did a lot with not that much screen time, really.
Yeah. This is what happens when you're, when you're insurgency, your movement doesn't think about what you do afterwards.
Yeah.
And so Edelstein is basically like, hey, this has gone too far. And he, kind of just begs her to see reason. And then Kathleen just is basically, like, contends that, like, Henry sold out her brother, and she demands to know where he is. She puts a gun to his head. And, she's like, you think I won't do it? And he does shake his head no, like, slowly. He's like,
You can't do it. I'm your doctor. Of course you're not going to do it.
Yeah, and I'm also just like, hey, hold up. That's a doctor. Like, we definitely need one of those. That's not a profession that anyone can do. Like, especially now, who the fuck is going to train these people?
Put them to work. Yeah.
Yeah, like, exactly. Like, we use this man's medical expertise. Do not kill him. Like, come on. It's not like he's like, I was a grocery clerk or something. Like, this man is a doctor. Like, this is specialty.
I was a freelance rubber band collector, and I snitched on my neighbors. Like, kill that guy. Like, you don't need.
It's like, I'm sorry, man. Should have had it. You should have been more useful. But, like, doctor, I'd be like, well, hold on now, Kathleen. I don't want to get shot, but, like, maybe reconsider. But like, then she's distracted by truck horns from outside, and then she travels out.
Yeah, she hears horns outside. She knows that something's going on out there. She goes outside to see what it is, and basically the search parties have come back with the bodies of Brian and his buddies who Joel took out. And so these armed, kind of roughshod looking, dirty, scraggly Kansas City survivors, these plucky working Joes who look like they've just been through a war, and, like, I think that's the impression we're meant to get. They're all just kind of gathered around these fallen friends of theirs, and Kathleen looks at this guy who, I don't think we hear his name or see his name in the episode, but I know from behind the scenes this guy's name is Perry, and he's kind of like Kathleen's second in command.
And he's also Tommy's voice actor from the video game.
That's right. I was going to get to that. Perry is played by Jeffrey Pierce, who was the original voice and mocap actor behind Tommy in the game. So love this guy. I love his work, and I'm psyched to see him on screen. And God damn, he looks awesome in this episode. Perry is this like bearded badass, this totally like stone cold looking dude who he's covered in knives and pistols and shit. Like he's like strapped up. He's looking ready for war. And he tells Kathleen, these 3 men killed by outsiders. We found their truck. It wasn't a Fedra vehicle, but they did have a lot of supplies. They might be mercenaries, is basically what he tells her.
Which mercenary?
Yeah, I was like,
well,
mercenaries?
Yeah, might be I was like, maybe you were a little bit, you might still be drunk on war, man. Because I was like, this isn't Mad Max.
Yeah, that's a weird assumption to make. Like mercs, who does that? I don't know. But no, yeah. So an even weirder assumption. Kathleen immediately jumps to the conclusion, "Oh, they must be working with Henry."
I'm like, bro, you need to calm down before we start calling you Karen.
These people, seriously, but these people are paranoid as hell. They're like, everyone's out to get us. Everyone's a mercenary. Everyone's working with Henry.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So she's kind of like making plans, and she's kind of considering what she's been told, and she looks at one of the 3 bodies. I guess one of them is still clinging to life. He was just badly wounded, and she asks, can he be saved? Can this guy, is there hope for this guy? What if I had a doctor? Could a doctor save him? And there's like a medic kind of looking over the 3 bodies, including Brian, and he just kind of looks back at her and says, no, there's no chance. And so without a word, once she hears that, Kathleen just walks right back into the holding cell, executes Edelstein right there, just shoots him in the head. And she Kathleen means business, like very, very clearly means business. She goes back outside and rallies her followers, find Henry, kill any collaborators they come across. It's a very deliberate word she used. That's an important word, collaborators. Yeah. Because like we said, like these people are still in insurgency mode, like uprising mode. Anyone who helped Fedra or is with Fedra, they're collaborators, they all need to die. And so she's kind of calling the shots, and her people mobilize. All these armed men just start storming nearby residences, like investigating apartments, tearing Kansas City apart to find these outsiders.
And it's important to note at this point, as we like alluded to earlier, Joel drove past the quarantine zone. So this is all outside of the quarantine zone. We're in the city. Yeah. So the fact that these people are willing to storm residents outside of the protected quarantine zone to find some dude just shows you what kind of influence that Kathleen has, because that's like dangerous lumber right there. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, they must not be that concerned about infected, or they've already cleared out infected or whatever. Like, yeah, they are acting like they completely own this city, which we're not used to seeing, having come from Boston in the previous episodes.
Yeah, I got people, you and the human centipede connected together. So. Yeah, so it's a
infected run that town. Yeah.
So apparently Kansas City is doing a little bit better than Boston.
I guess so.
And so we cut to a boarded up storefront, and we have Ellie and Joel both hiding in there as like the hunters search the city. And they both spot a tall building, and they kind of plan to make their way over there as soon as they stop hearing tanks, because like the tanks are pretty much like across the street.
Yeah, these guys have like legit military hardware. They got like Humvees, and I think like I saw like there was a truck with a big plow on it, and creepy as hell, like bone chilling. They had the word "run" just painted on the plow. So these guys are fucking serious. They mean business.
Yeah, because it was funny, because at the beginning of the episode, when they were talking about, like, Ellie was like, said something when they were at the gas station, and Joel was like, they used to put these big plows on the trucks, and they would clear out everything. And so it's like we get to see one right away.
That's
and
right.
Then we got to even have the truck with the fucking like Gatling gun on the back. They're like they're armed up, so these guys can do some damage
for sure.
And so like, they plan to go to this building once the coast is clear. And so like in an awkward silence, they both kind of, pretty much after an awkward silence, they both ask each other if they're okay. And Joel, kind of stammering, like tells Ellie that she shouldn't have had to shoot Brian. And like, you can tell that like that is weighing on him heavily. Like it is really like just starting to tear him apart that she even had to do anything like that. And what I like about that is like he's like, you're just a kid, like you shouldn't, know what it means to. And then he has to stop for a second and also like
Mm.
reassure her that she didn't kill him. Like
Right.
that's what I love about that part, is because it's like he feels bad for her having to do that, and is trying to sympathize for her, but he also wants to protect her
Yeah.
from feeling like she just killed a man, because like he also knows how hard that is. So it's like
Yeah.
really we're getting where Joel is like kind of opening up here. Like this is the
Yeah.
most vulnerable you can get out of this man right now.
Yeah. Like offering, like he's obviously not used to consoling people, trying to offer them words of comfort. And so it's very clumsy, but that is what he's trying to do, is like hey, it's like you just wounded him. I'm the one who actually killed him. So don't feel too bad. Basically, it's like the very
Right.
clumsy way of trying to, console her.
Yeah, it's like I did it. I'm sorry you had to hurt somebody about it, but it was me. Like it
Yeah.
does, like, man doesn't even know what he's doing, and like so because he knows how like traumatizing it is to take a life, and like for the first time,
Mhm.
and he's really trying to convey that, but he's like, I'm shitty at this, and Elliot's like, yeah, you are,
Yeah, you are.
and he's
Yeah.
you're so shitty at this, but it's like it's kind of sweet because like he's really trying.
He's making the effort. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's trying so hard, but he just like fucking can't. And
Yeah.
then like so like Ellie's like wiping tears away, and then pauses, and then tells Joel that it wasn't her first time.
Wow.
And and like Joel's like taken back a bit, and then is kind of like kind of just compartmentalizes again, and then
Hmm.
is just like takes the pistol, unloads it, and then shows her how to properly grip it. He's like,
Yeah.
show me how, show me how you do this. And then he's like, where did you learn this from? She's like, federal school. And he's like, fucking course. And
Figures. Yeah, that was so funny.
and then he shows her how to use the gun, and is basically like, okay, it's yours now. So like
Yeah.
he was just like, all right, he's like recognizing her resourcefulness,
Yeah.
and like a little bit of her maturity in the moment. Like she didn't completely, I like to believe, like she didn't completely break down. She's like still willing to go forward,
Yeah.
and like she also understands his concern, and I think he understands that, and so he's like, fuck it, we're gonna do this. Then I'm gonna show you how to use this if you're gonna use it, and I do trust you to use it.
Yeah. This, yeah, now that you mention that, this is like an interesting way of both of these characters mutually building trust with each other, because, Ellie shows Joel some resilience and reliability, and like shows him that she can pull her weight and kind of be someone to not someone that he can rely on necessarily, but someone who isn't a liability to him.
Right.
And also he's showing her some semblance of respect for her, and like giving her more consideration as a person than you would if someone was just cargo to you. He's at least, like we said, making the effort to make her feel better. And that means a lot. That obviously means a lot to her. And yeah, by like showing her how to properly handle a gun, like giving her the technique pointers and all that, that's a huge show of trust from him to her. When earlier he's been spending the last 3 episodes refusing to trust her with a gun, and now there's that bit of a bridge building there. So
Yeah. It's like every little bit you get a like every time something like this happens, you get a little bit further than the, well, I'm just taking these precautions and acting this way because of Tess. So
right,
that's what I really loved about this. But like after he's like, she goes to put the pistol in the back of her pants, and he's like, don't do that, you're gonna shoot your ass off. And then tells her to put it in her backpack, but of course she doesn't listen and puts it in her jacket pocket, which is probably a good idea, but hey, whoever. And so they
yeah,
kind of start to prepare to move from their hiding spot, and Joel tells her that everything is okay and that they'll get through this, and she
mm,
responds with, I know. And
mm.
nice little moment of like, yeah, we're starting to really trust each other, because we have to rely on each other.
Yeah. The team dynamic is starting there. Like, hey, we're gonna get through this, and she feels like it's not just bullshit to say, yeah, we will get through this, because we are starting to feel like we can rely on each other. That's big. That's big growth right there in a scene like that. And so after this, we cut back to Kathleen. She's kind of overseeing the search for Henry, and she meets up with Perry and tells him, I've come up with nothing, no sign of Henry yet. But Perry, he's like, well, I've got something, and he shows her to an attic hideout, like a crawl space, basically above an apartment building. That when they climb up into it, they see signs of recent habitation. There's open cans of food all over the place, and there are drawings that you'd see like a kid like put together, like a child's drawings all over the place. And this kind of dawns on Kathleen. She kind of like has a realization like, oh, Henry must be low on food now. And she also mentions a second name. She mentions someone named Sam. She says Henry wouldn't let Sam starve. So she's this is like a hunter closing in on their prey. That's sort of the vibe she's giving off, like, oh, I've got them now. So, they're low on food, so we need to double the guards around our provisions because they're gonna they're gonna try and steal food from us, and that's when we'll get them. So she's making plans and like figuring stuff out.
So obsessive. So
yeah, she is a dog with a bone here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And Perry's like nodding, he's understanding, like, okay, got it. Yeah, will do. But he looks like he's holding something back, like he's thinking about something else. And has a faraway look in his eyes. And Kathleen's like, what is it? And he just kind of like nods. And he's like, all right, well, I got something else to show you. And he takes her to another room. It's like a basement now. They're kind of underneath one of the buildings. And he opens a door and they shine a flashlight in. And the floor of this basement is starting to just collapse. Like it's basically like a crater is forming in this concrete floor. And they're both like staring at it, like, what the fuck is that? And then the floor, like the rubble of the floor starts to kind of pulsate and rumble as if something is pushing up from underneath. And that's creepy as fuck. I'm going to tell you right now. And they're both seem terrified of this. They don't know what it is. Even a total, grizzled hard ass like Perry looks concerned about this, and he backs out. And Kathleen just goes, "Oh shit," and runs out of the room. They both close the door. They look at each other like, this is bad. And Perry asks, when are we going to tell the others? And I like that wording. Perry doesn't use the words, should we tell the others? He says, when are we telling the others? Yeah. And Kathleen's like, later. Let's just deal with this first. We got to take care of the Henry situation, and we'll figure this out later. And again, Perry nods, and he's like, okay. But he doesn't seem comfortable with that answer. He's like, this doesn't seem like the kind of thing that's going to wait.
If I was Perry, I would have snitched. I would have had to snitch. I would be like, this is poor leadership decisions. Like,
yeah,
I understand that like Henry must have wronged you in some way or something. Right. And you've got like some, I don't know, weird obsession with this. Like you're standing Henry negatively right now. But like, the ground moved.
The ground moved, lady.
Yeah, like the ground moved. I think that's more important than like a dude and some other dude.
Yeah. Like just a couple of dudes running around. They don't seem like a bigger threat than this, but that's just my 2 cents. Like, what do I know?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I guess we're just going to tell everybody later. Like, oh yeah, but lock the doors.
Yeah, we'll seal the building. Yeah, I think that's the one thing she kind of lets him do for now. Like, okay, just seal the building and we'll take care of this later. But yeah, you're right. This is definitely personal, the whole Henry thing. We got the impression earlier that she holds Henry, whoever he is, we haven't met him yet, she holds Henry responsible for her brother dying at the hands of Fedra. Like, we know that she has this murder boner, basically, for collaborators. Yeah. Like, they all got to die, but I think she considers Henry, like, the main collaborator, like the one that absolutely has to be put to justice. Right. So everything else is secondary to her.
Including this basement earthquake movement shit. So like
whatever that is, yeah.
Yeah, so good God. And so we go from this terrible decision all the way to Ellie and Joel finally sneaking to the high-rise building that they both had spotted earlier. And they climb more than 30 stories before stopping the night to rest. And it's actually it's kind of funny because like Joel is just like, this is where we get to see how old Joel is.
Yeah,
because he's just like fucking exhausted.
Give me a minute, I'm tapped out.
Yeah, like it's hilarious because Joel is as old in this show as he is in The Last of Us 2, technically, which is like only 4 years older. So it's like not like a huge difference. But Joel's 56, so he's old. Like,
He's
I
getting up there.
can't.
Yeah.
If I had to climb 33 flights of stairs and I'm younger, I would have
Yeah.
dropped.
Yeah. Over 30 stories at the age of 32, as I am now, like, even I'm going to be winded after that. Holy shit. Like, 56, forget about it.
And so on their way up, they get we get a nice conversation that also was had during the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Ellie asks, like how they knew that the hurt dude from before was an ambush, like the
Mm-hmm.
guy who just was faking it.
Mm-hmm.
And he simply answers that he's been on both sides, and that and so like in the game that was it. In the game he just said, I've been on both sides, and then
Yeah.
you keep going, and she's like, okay. But he gives a little bit more detail, and he was like, that group with him and Tess and Tommy and those people, they did what they had to do in order to survive. And so, then we get another thing from the game where she asks, like, have you killed innocent people? And he just doesn't respond.
Yeah.
And so, like, his silence is telling, though. Like, we know for sure this man must have killed a lot of innocent people.
Yeah.
And like, you get that, like, kind of flashback to Tess. Like, to me at least, I get that flashback to Tess just being like, we were shitty people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in the second episode, what she refers to, like, we've done so much terrible stuff over the years that taking Ellie where she needs to go is like our karmic debt to pay, basically. And we're getting a bigger glimpse of that past here with Joel's very meaningful silence on that question. Like, did you kill innocent people? Like, he's like, let's keep, he just ignores it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep going. I am not digging that one up.
Yeah, let's not go there. So they eventually get to an office, like an office suite, basically. Like they're in like some kind of business building, and they break their way into an office. And Joel, spreads broken glass all over the in front of the door so that they can't get snuck up on in the night. Hopefully, at least that's the idea. And they lay down to go to bed. And it's another kind of like the camping scene earlier. It's like this, not awkward, but it's a pregnant pause, basically. It's like it's silent, dark, you're trying to go to sleep, and it's a void, and you try to fill that with conversation. So it's actually Joel's turn to try to fill the void with conversation, which he doesn't normally do. But they're laying down to sleep in this office, and he asks Ellie, what did she mean when she said it wasn't her first time hurting someone? And Ellie says she doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't just ignore the question like Joel does, like Joel usually does. She explicitly says, I don't want to talk about it. And he's like, okay, well, you don't have to talk about it, but I just want you to know it's not fair for someone your age to have to go through what you've gone through. So kind of like, again, offering her that sort of lifeline. Like, hey, I just want you to know that this is fucked up and it's not okay. And I'm here for you, basically, like without saying all that, just, it's the age thing. Like, you're young, you shouldn't have to go through this. And so she asks him, well, does that mean it gets easier as you get older? He's no, it doesn't. It's not.
Yeah, not at all.
And so another awkward silence passes, and again, they're trying to go to sleep. And Ellie decides to break the tension with one more horrible joke. And I think she says, did you know that diarrhea is hereditary? He just doesn't say anything then because it runs in your genes. And this was great. Joel just makes like the slightest little chuckling noise and then just says, that is so goddamn stupid. Ellie laughs her ass off. She's like, you laugh, motherfucker.
Yes. It's like a good old poop joke is the one thing everybody can connect on. If it's a joke about shit, people are going to laugh at that stuff. And there's also like the interesting part of that conversation where we realize that like Joel is also can't hear so well on his right side.
That's right. Yeah.
And
from both getting shot at and from just shooting guns so often over the years with no ear protection, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so Joel is a little bit hard of hearing on one side, which is why good old Brian was able to kind of get the jump on him temporarily.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because he wasn't able to like hear it right away until Brian was like, he wasn't able to hear him coming. He was only able to hear him once he got there.
Once he came through the door, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's a good point. I didn't think of that. But yeah, I mean, after the day they've had, a joke like that, I think that's exactly what they both needed. Because Ellie finally manages to make Joel laugh, and they finally have this moment of catharsis where they laugh together, and they both really, really needed that after today.
A poop joke for a shitty day. That's just basically it.
Absolutely. And so they finally get to sleep, but unfortunately they don't get a solid 8 hours like they need. Later that night, we hear Ellie calling Joel's name, trying to wake him up, and he opens his eyes to see a young man pointing a gun at Ellie, and also a younger man, a boy really, holding him at gunpoint. So they're both in grave danger, and the boy holding the gun at Joel just puts a finger to his lips.
Yeah, it's fucking got the face paint on too.
Yeah, he had face, but like he had like a superhero mask, kind of like painted onto his face. So that was interesting. Like, what a cliffhanger, man! What a way to roll credits on this one.
Hell yeah, that was it was intense. So this concludes our coverage of Last of Us episode 4. We are going to take a quick break here, and then we will be back with our overall thoughts and some Chef Boyardee.
Got to take our Boyardee break. It's union mandated, actually, to take our Boyardee break. So stick around. Okay, we're back, and we have broken down the events of episode 4 of the Last of Us series. And this was, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but like I feel like every week we come on and say another banger, like another bop of an episode. But yeah, like we'll just share some overall thoughts and impressions we had of this episode. Firstly, for me, I just thought, again, like the pacing here was really great. I thought like there was just the right balance of character moments, of dialogue, of humor, and there was nice action here too. I'll get to that later, but I think what really formed the backbone of this episode was just really well executed and gradual evolution of Joel and Ellie's relationship. Like they really took the center stage here. Like it's cool how after last episode, which was a kind of not a side story, but it was kind of like a branch into Bill and Frank's whole story. And it was, I think we said last time, the Bill and Frank's story was bookended by the dynamic growing between Joel and Ellie. But this episode was really it really gave them the center stage. And God, the joke book scenes, the comedic dialogue, the back and forth was just flawless. And overall, Pedro and Bella just continued to nail their dialogue here in this episode. And their chemistry is getting really, really good now, I feel like.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'd say that like my thoughts are just like this was just again stellar episode. Like this is definitely like it just keeps getting better. And it's such a kind of like it's a nice departure from like we had like last week's episode was like darker but also more heartfelt, and like this one, so like we kind of get that was our break, and like that was such an emotionally charged episode. That was our like little break before we dive back into the like chaos of humanity. And so it's like what like it kind of just like an emotional wave. I appreciated that. Like you go from, this like kind of sweet love story that like still is dark to this just, okay, now we're going to go back to humanity, and we're going to see how the people that are not inside of, this like kind of closed and protected town are living. And spoiler, they're living like shit.
Let's check in on the people who haven't found soulmates and see how they're doing.
It's like we're trying to kill each other.
For sure. It's cool that the show, I feel like, is kind of keeping us on our toes. Like, back and like, this like almost cutaway vignette with Bill and Frank back to the world building of, here's a city that completely ate itself alive with Fedra and insurgents fighting each other, and let's see how everything mixes when we throw Joel and Ellie into that situation. So yeah, no, we're getting a nice change of pace each time, I feel like.
Yeah.
Central to that, one other thing I really liked about this episode was the action. There was a really cool little thriller scene here with the truck ambush. I was really excited to see how the truck ambush scene would be done on the small screen, because that's like a classic part of the game, one of my favorite parts of the game, and I wasn't disappointed. I liked what they did with it.
Yeah.
My one quirk, I don't even really feel like this is a criticism, but like the one thing I find interesting is that Joel didn't seem bothered by Ellie hiding the gun from him. I just kind of expected that to be a bigger source of conflict. Like in the last episode when we saw Ellie take the pistol and hide it, I just kind of thought that would lead to more tension between them than it did. I feel like, I don't want to say that was glossed over, but it was just a smaller point than I thought it was going to be, because, she saves his life with the gun that she hid from him. And in the game, Joel freaks out. Like, I told you to, hang back, and, what are you doing? And I'm just lucky you didn't, kill me on accident or whatever. Like he freaks out over her using a gun. And I think actually one thing that I'm realizing now, having seen the show and talked about it with you, there could be a deeper level to the game part of that, that scene that I hadn't considered earlier. Maybe game Joel was upset, not because, Ellie used the gun, but because he was upset that she was put in a position that she had to, and as a child didn't deserve to be there. And so that's a different aspect of that scene that the show is kind of giving us. So it was a difference that I didn't expect, and I wasn't necessarily thrilled by, but it makes sense now that I've like kind of thought about it. But it's just like, I guess I thought that the hiding of the gun was going to be a bigger deal than it was, but it does, having seen how it played out in the show, that does speak to that growing trust between them. Like, I think in the show version of Joel, he was, I guess, a bit quicker to overlook the hiding of the gun because Ellie saved his life with it. So he's like pragmatic to a fault. He's like, okay, well, you hid it from me, you broke my trust, but you saved my life, so whatever, it's a wash, I guess.
Yeah, and that's like, that's I agree with that. Like, I think I kind of wonder now if it would have been different if she had actually killed Brian. Then
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, would he have just been like really like down to the dumps?
Yeah. like not only did you shoot him, he died instantly, and I didn't like have to finish him off. Like, that would have been interesting to see how that would play out.
Yeah. And then, the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, I guess it makes more and more, it makes sense on more and more levels the more I think about why he killed Brian. Like, obviously there's the obvious reasons, and then there's like like you kind of also had to kill him to spare Ellie's feelings.
Yeah, you don't want her to see it or have to do it herself. So.
Yeah. Because and know that when they leave that guy there, he's definitely going to die anyways.
Right.
So like, and then it would be her fault. So it's like, I need to take care of this. Like, it's a weird, in a dark way, he's taking care of her by killing a guy.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so like, honestly, my next point was really about that. Like, we get to see Joel doing what Joel does best in the game, in a more realistic manner, but it is, kind of kicking ass now and asking questions later. Like I really loved tactical Joel, because like the way I saw that scene was like, okay, I can kill two birds with one stone, both literally and figuratively. Like, I can have Ellie go into the crack, and so when I reposition, the guy's probably going to come out, like, go that way because he's going to think I ducked away, and he just, tagged him on the wall, and, like...
That's right.
So I'm just, like... He's like, I was like, this man knew what he was doing, and he knew what he was doing quickly. Like, he really, like, evaluated his surroundings, and he took action.
Yeah, he was in his element, for sure.
Yeah, and when he, like, knocks the shotgun up into the air, it's like, dude is just, like, pure instinct and reflexes. Like, someone got the jump on him, and he still was able to not get shot.
Yeah.
And then it got dark, Like, you get the scenes in The Last of Us where you get the, like, you kill all the people, and there's the last person there, and they're like, please don't.
Yeah.
And then when you leave them, they get up and try to kill you anyway, so you have to shoot them.
Right.
But, like, this was just, like, like this scene sucks because it's like, hey, he wasn't like he this was some kid that was kind of
Yeah.
hyped up with numbers and guns, and he thought he had got the jump on him, and he had a big head and a big ego, and
Yeah.
that thing got deflated. And
Yeah. It was a little hard to watch, like such a young guy, barely more than a kid, like realize his mortality a little too late and just
yeah,
face his end like that. Just like, oh my God, I forgot about this earlier. I didn't say this earlier. He literally was crying out for his mom right
yeah,
before Joel kills him.
yep,
That was hard.
yeah, that was super hard. And
Yeah.
it was like it's like what I liked about that scene is and my point about this scene is that like it's weird because it's moments like this that remind us that Joel isn't actually a murderer. He's like not just killing for fun, and he's not
Yeah.
getting some sort of like sick joy out of it. He doesn't want the world to burn. He's just surviving. The thing
Yeah.
that he always talks about. He's just surviving, and like his goal is to keep those that he considers family close and out of harm's way. And
Mhm.
like he's just willing to do whatever needs to be done in the situation to achieve that. And like in this time he had to keep Ellie safe, so Brian had to die.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's weird to say, but it's like that's just business, man.
Yeah. That's just what he
Yeah.
that's what he does. And that's how Bill put it. That's what Bill said. That's how you and I are alike. If we consider someone family, we will move mountains to keep them safe, and we will butcher the fuck out of anyone we have to make sure that that person that's important to us is safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see that in action here.
Because like if he was like some kind of heartless jackass, he wouldn't have told her to go away. Like he's
Yeah.
just like, what's about to happen.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that was a big scene. A lot of big scenes here. My other takeaway about this episode was that we're starting to see some pretty significant and interesting departures from the game. We talked about like a lot of direct tie-ins and callbacks, but also a couple of kind of deviations. So like there's a good mix of things they're doing different and things they're taking directly from the game, which is cool. It keeps us on our toes as TV viewers who also played the game. It's like nice to see things we recognize, but also see things that are different. And I guess the biggest difference here is this episode basically adapted the Pittsburgh chapter of the game. We've mentioned Pittsburgh a few times, but the adaptation of the show moved the setting of this episode from Pittsburgh to Kansas City. And also, it seems like they're making Henry kind of more of a central character to what's happening here. Like Henry is now connected to the conflict in Kansas City.
Yep.
Whereas in the game, he and Sam were just passing through Pittsburgh. They were just trying to get through the city, just like Joel and Ellie were.
Yep.
They weren't like from there. So the showrunners seem to be tweaking just plot points a little bit, just enough to make the story work that much better in the television medium. So like I think that's something I've noticed in other episodes, in previous episodes, and I just keep seeing it here where it's like they're just showing a really good understanding of what works in the game wouldn't necessarily work perfectly in the show. So we're just like fitting what we can in. We're fitting in what we can fit in and shaving things or reshaping things where we have to. I don't know. It's just, I feel like the changes here make sense because Pittsburgh feels a little too close to Boston to make sense as like the next big set piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they have the truck, they can cover miles and miles and miles of ground, but they only make it to Pittsburgh before they lose their truck. Whereas in the show, by putting it in Kansas City, it's like, I feel like that makes more sense for them to have had that travel montage of crossing like dozens of states to get to Kansas City, Missouri. It just makes more sense to me. Like, and having Henry like have an actual stake in what's happening in Kansas City, and that feels like that'll be that much more engaging when Joel and Ellie are brought into Henry's conflict as well. So I don't know, just the changes they've made with this episode, I feel like I'm getting more, I'm more bought in as a viewer than I would be if it was the same setting, same premise, same conflict as it was in the game. So good changes generally.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that if I had like a fan, like a big brain tinfoil hat fan theory, is that like they're adapting. Like if you go around the game, you see these notes and you kind of get like a small understanding of like what's going on in the city. And I feel like
Hmm.
they adapt some of these, some of what was in some of the notes, like some of the more
Yeah.
obscure, like random notes where it's like this person's story has started and ended, or just like this is the only thing you're ever going to know about this person. It's not pivotal to the story in any means.
Right.
And I think they kind of worked that in because like I remember specifically there was a note from somebody that you find in like an abandoned house, and it was this person that talked about how their son went into a protest
Hmm.
and Fedra killed them, and so now that they're going to join up with the resistance because it's like they might as well like
Yeah.
die fighting for something. And so
Right.
like we're getting, and then there's like stuff about like the hunters and how they formed and how they went to shit after, you know, they accomplished this big thing. And so
Yeah.
like I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, but I like how it's being adapted because like it'd be so hard to showcase it exactly as it is in the game
Yeah.
without it just being like crazy people, unrelated side character that has no stakes, but for some reason has all the stakes.
Right.
Reason, you know, like something big that can wrap all of this up. It's just, you know,
Hmm.
like instead of us just being
Hmm.
like hi and bye.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I think like that's why I was so psyched to see Melanie Linsky's character, Kathleen. I like Melanie Linsky. She's a great actress. And Kathleen showing up as like putting a face to that concept that was really only alluded to in the game. In the
Yep.
game, you just have like this, like you said, kind of background references to this civil war basically that erupted in this city. It was Pittsburgh, now Kansas City. Same premise though. Like these are just normal people who felt like they were being oppressed and abused by Fedra, and they did something about it and kicked them out, killed them off. And it's really cool to see that play out, or like get to play with that more on the TV show. I'm really fascinated by that plot point of the game. I was always really cool. Like I always thought that was a really cool story to be kind of fed crumbs of in the background of the game, and so I'm like psyched to see that play out on TV. And
Yeah.
you know, just the subtleties and dynamics of insurgents who won the war and they now
Yep.
control the city. Like that's just a great story, and I'm like, you know, looking forward to more of that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And I also just love that like Joel and Ellie they're getting like thrust into these situations now where they like need to depend on each other, and like you said, there's
Hmm.
that evolution. Like you know, we talked about in the last episode, we said that like basically at this point everybody that Joel cares about or considers family with like the exception of Tommy, that you know, since we haven't seen Tommy yet, is dead.
Hmm.
So like all of them in the course of two episodes, everyone that he's like pretty much cool with has died. And
Yeah.
you know, like even though they have this conversation in the car where he's basically just like, "Nope, you're cargo," you know, and not family, and he's just doing this job for Tess. Like we are slowly seeing Ellie grow into like this new unexpected connection. That's like it's not like filling space for anyone. It is a new like it is a new connection. Like
Yeah.
Joel you know, says these things and then puts on a tough face, but like he's like not an asshole. He is very much like he's concerned. He doesn't know how to be concerned. He's
Yeah.
protective, which you know he can do to a fault. And then he's like he doesn't like he's still treating her like a child that's in a that's back in 2003.
Yeah.
Like and
Yeah.
I like that because it's like, oh, you know, a kid like you shouldn't have to kill somebody. I like motherfucker. Like Brian probably wasn't that much older.
Right.
Yeah, like
Right. That's a good
yeah,
point.
like so I was like, shit's different. Shit be
Yeah.
happening. It's the it's 20 years into the
That's what. Yeah.
mushroom headed apocalypse.
Yeah. It is what it is. You know.
Yeah, like fucking crazy.
Yeah. For sure. No, it's yeah. I think with this episode we're getting like the beginnings of that bridge being built, and it's really fun to watch, and just looking forward to how else that'll be explored between those two characters, like these two principal characters who drive the entire thing. Yeah, totally. My last takeaway, last thing I wanted to shout out about this show is just just props to Jeffrey Pierce. I love that guy. He's a great actor. I feel like he's really underrated in sort of the in Hollywood in general, but he's been in some video games that you all probably recognize, but it's a little under the radar. Obviously, he was Tommy in Last of Us, but he was also in Call of Duty World War II. He played Lieutenant Turner in that game, and I think that was a masterpiece performance that doesn't get talked about enough. And so, just seeing him on live action, really cool because, like, he, I heard the story that he actually originally read and auditioned for the role of Joel, but that eventually went to Troy Baker, obviously. But he was later offered the role of Tommy, and just like I think really fleshed it out, brought a lot of pathos to it, a lot of life to it. And it's great that, like, he's not Tommy on the show, obviously Gabriel Luna is, but it's so cool that he's like involved in this way. And, he's like, honestly, for me at least, he low key stole the show a bit, like as Perry, because he just he has such a stage presence. Like he does so much with just expressions and presence. And I don't know, I'm a bit of a Jeffrey Pierce stan. I'll say it. Jeffrey, if you're listening, we love you, buddy. Come on the show. We'd love to have you. And I'm just like, I'm looking forward to seeing what else he does. Cause I feel like I think he's gonna continue to steal the scenes a bit, and just with the ominous foreshadowing of that rumbling concrete floor. I'm just psyched to see what else he does with this role, and what else happens in this in the Kansas City chapter that we're in now.
Yeah, because he doesn't I totally agree, because he doesn't have a lot of lines, but like he has presence, and like he does it well. Like he does a lot of acting with his eyes, and like so to me he's right up there with Pedro Pascal and Joel, and like that just like sort of my silence speaks volumes. Like,
absolutely.
So I was like perfect. They got a perfect pair. Like when they're both on screen, they're both really like commanding. And so I am looking forward to see like, hey, what happens? Are these two going to meet up? Is there going to be like a face-to-face confrontation or anything like that?
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Well, I think lastly, I want to shout out a really quick quote. We sometimes have dialogue we like or quotes we want to highlight, but I think we talked about this earlier. The climbing of the stairs, where we see Joel show his age a bit and get a little exhausted. And he's like sitting on the floor against the wall, like, just give me a minute. Let me catch my breath. And I think Ellie calls him a lazy ass. Like, get on your feet, lazy ass. And I just love his response. He goes, lazy ass, 56 years old, you little shit. I don't know. There's something about the term "you little shit" that just warms my heart, because I just love seeing like that generational dynamic play out. Like, oh, fuck off, I'm 56.
I kept making the joke that I was like, I'm really waiting for him to call her a little shit at one point, and then it finally happened. And I was like, yeah, because like she's just been poking the bear every episode, just like fucking with this guy, and I'm just I was waiting for him to break down. It's like, leave me alone, you little shit. Like, because you got little glimpses of it when like they were sitting in the hallway on episode 2 and they were talking to each other, and she's flipping a knife and stuff. And so like they've had their like back and forth. So I was waiting for him to have like enough.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that about wraps it up. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us grow the show. And be sure to connect with us on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter at lore_party. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.